Yesterday, October 4th, 2021, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and a couple of other social media sites were down, they crashed. Now it's still being determined what happened. It could have been a hacker, but we're going to know eventually. But the thing there is, it's like it gives you an understanding of the kind of life that we live in, so that if you begin to understand that there's more to life than just the physical. Now, what do I mean? You saw when Facebook crashed and Instagram crashed and then WhatsApp crashed. What happened? If you were on Twitter, you saw that there was a great migration of people to Twitter. All of a sudden, the volume of traffic on Twitter just went up. If you did a tweet, I mean, maybe usually you get like maybe 20 retweets. All of a sudden, you were getting 200 because people from all over the world migrated to Twitter. Now, what does that mean? It means that when you crash as a human being, when maybe you're financially buoyant and then you crash, you're going to see your so-called friends and associates and colleagues, they're all going to migrate from you to the next buoyant person. That's what you saw. I mean, Facebook was just the biggest social media site, then Instagram, and then WhatsApp. But because they crashed, people just migrated, boom, to Twitter, and then Mark Zuckerberg lost $7 billion on the spot. He just lost $7 billion yesterday, probably more, but what was recorded I think at close of business was $7 billion. Now you just see that. So it teaches you something. You know, human nature, except it has been enlivened by the Spirit of God, it's very, very flighty. It's very, very, human beings can be flippant, can be, very, very shallow. Just look at the way they migrated, the way they drifted, bam, 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 away. And it's not that they're bad, it is human nature. Now, this leads me to another deeper point I want to try to make. So just imagine, like investments. Now, when you talk about investments, most people think about, okay, just financial investment. But here's the thing. You're here for a certain period. You're born and then you have a dash and then you die. So if you go on the gravestone, you see born on maybe 10th of January 1950, died on August 8th, 2020. And then there's a dash. So all you have is that dash. It might be 60, 50, it might be 70 years, it might be even be 100, but all you just have is that dash. What are you investing your life in? What are you investing your life in? Now, look at it this way. Look, Facebook can crash, and it did crash yesterday. Instagram can crash, and it did crash yesterday. WhatsApp can crash, and it crashed yesterday. YouTube can crash, and it's crashed before. Google can crash. Twitter can crash. In fact, Twitter, it can crash. It can also be banned. In some countries, it's been banned. It's not just that, like TikTok, it can crash. Now let's even go into more tangible things. The stock market can crash. And it has crashed before. I mean, there's been suicides, lots of people just jumping out of windows in Wall Street and other financial centers around the world. The stock market can crash. And it's not just the stock market that can crash. Governments can crash. Governments can crash. We've seen that before. And it's not just, we've seen that in Europe, we've seen that in Africa, you've seen that. It's not just in only third world countries. It happens everywhere. I mean, we saw what happened in East Germany in 1991. When that government, it crashed. Honecker went out and then they brought in a new government and boom, it just collapsed. We saw what happened in the Soviet Union when the USSR collapsed, crashed. Mikhail Gorbachev was arrested, and then some jokers took over, and eventually Boris Yeltsin came up and then assumed control. That government crashed. So now you have only Russia, all the other states that they became independent. So governments can crash. Banks can crash. It's happened before. Banks crash, and then all the money that you had in the bank, boom, it's all gone. If you have deposit insurance, if the government is able to stand, okay, maybe you might get some of your money back, but not all. So governments can crash. And then let's go even deeper. Let's go nearer home. Marriages too can crash. Marriages can crash. So what do you have now? You have friendships. Friendships crash. They crash all the time. Look at celebrities. Not just celebrities. Look at politicians. Look at sports figures. People who were, they were just close. Were 5 and 6. They were like as close as a hand in a glove. Boom, they crashed. So on earth right now, in human relations, everything can crash. Social media can crash, stock markets can crash, banks can crash, governments can crash, marriages can crash, relationships can crash, friendships can crash, even siblings can crash. It's okay. And in America, you can actually, as a child, you can divorce your family. I don't know if they have it in other countries in Europe. I suspect they do. The only thing that cannot crash is your relationship with God. That's just the only thing that cannot crash. If you read it, Hebrews 13:5, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Now, never is a mighty word, a very strong word. Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. If you go to Psalm 27:10, it's even more poignant. In Psalm 27:10, it says that even if my mother and my father forsake me. Now this is God talking, so I'm going to put it in his own voice. It says that even if your mother and your father abandon you, the Lord God, I will never abandon you. So think about that. So even if your parental relationships crash, God will never abandon you. So some people say, okay, but your relationship with God can crash. I used to have a relationship with God and then it crashed. No. Your relationship with God did not crash. It is you that crashed. God is still there. That's why James 4:8 says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. So your relationship with God is determined by you. It hasn't crashed. Your connection to it might have crashed because you've gone away from God, you've forgotten about him, you stopped believing, you just broke all your connection. But the relationship is still stable. Whenever you are ready, you come back to it, that relationship is there. My name is Ronald Mokri, and I hope that I have ministered to you. God bless you, and thank you for watching.